So I'm actually releasing the game in about 2 weeks, and I finally decided on a release date, and that is October 14th. So over 2 years of work is finally coming to an end. But honestly, I'm freaking out. Welcome to another devlog for PixelTribe, a game where you build and upgrade a clan of Vikings. So I honestly have so many things I have to do before the launch of the game that I wasn't even sure I had the time to actually create this devlog. But I recently released a huge update with most of the content that will be available at release, so I wanted to make a small devlog to show you some of the new cool things. Because I've basically created over 300 new weapon and armor pieces, 2 completely new buildings, 70 new building levels, 100 new ability levels, and much more. So the previous max level was actually 25, but now I've added enough content to make the new max level 70 instead, which is about 1 to 2 months of gameplay. So once the game is released, I have plenty of time to add even more content before people run out of things to do. So let's have a little peek at all the new armor and weapons I made. And now we actually have different tiers of items as well, because as you level up, you unlock new mines and new ore, which can be melted into ingots you can use to craft new and better armor and more powerful weapons. So basically at the start of the game, you craft gear out of wood and stone and leather and thread. But the next tier is actually copper, chainmail and silk cloth armor. And after that we have iron, mithril and rune cloth armor, and even later you get the orcish steel, obsidian and spell cloth armor. And the last tier I've added so far lets you create armor and weapons with dragon steel, dragon hide and mystic cloth. So now I've created armor and weapon pieces for all these tiers, and it resulted in a total of 300 new items added to the game. I can also show you how I actually add a single piece of armor to the game, so let's take a wooden chest for example. First we have to draw every single run animation frame with the new armor piece, as well as draw the actual icon. Then we have to export the file and add it to Unity. And after that we have to create a new prefab object of the chest class I've created. It's basically an empty chest item where we now need to fill out the item information. So then we have to go through all of this, set a name, a description, the icon, and if it's craftable in the armor smith, we also have to decide what resources we need to actually craft it. And then we have to decide what stats the armor piece should have and in what level it actually unlocks. So now we've basically created a single item, and trust me, it takes an insanely long time and it's extremely tedious to add 300 of these items. But I haven't just added new items, I've actually created 2 completely new buildings as well, the church and the jewel crafter. So the church is actually a place where you sacrifice your gold or your war efforts for a chance of getting your armor or weapon pieces blessed by the gods. And a blessing increases all the stats of the item by 2.5%. So you can basically level up your gear and make your Vikings even more powerful by offering some resources to the gods. Next up, I also added a jewel crafter where one can finally craft amulets and rings for your Vikings. I've always had the slot to equip rings and amulets, but one hasn't been able to craft or get any of these things before now. And rings and amulets can only have a single stat, so one has to carefully pick and choose what stats you want to equip your Vikings with. And not to brag too much, but I'm actually quite happy with the design of both the jewel crafter and the church building. But I've also added a ton of new building levels, because as you level up, you must upgrade your buildings to unlock new resources, armor and weapons. For example, our armor smith now has 9 levels where each level unlocks new armor pieces. And now most buildings have many new levels as well, even though I haven't been able to add all the resources that every single level should unlock yet. And with a ton of new buildings and resources, our Vikings can also be leveled up even more. So I also added a ton of new ability levels, so as you level up your Vikings, you can now buy even more powerful abilities to crush your enemies. For example, the bleed ability can now be upgraded to level 10. In level 1, it applies a bleed that does 50% of your damage for 3 turns. But at level 10, it's upgraded to deal 150% of your damage instead. During the last couple of weeks, I've also fixed another quite important feature, account recovery. Account recovery was actually super painful to set up and implement, but now you can finally create a user or log in with Google Play for Android users and actually be able to recover your account if you ever lose your phone or simply change to another device. So now we have some extra security, so hopefully no one will ever lose their progress. But now that we're getting closer and closer to the release of the game, I can honestly feel my stress levels increasing every single day. Because releasing a game is a completely separate profession than actually making a game, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Like just making sure you have a release plan and having all the resources you need ready, like a trailer and maybe a press kit, some posts for social media, and how many posts and how much time should you actually spend on that, and you need a good and optimized store page with good screenshots and optimized descriptions, and then you have to decide if you actually want to run some ads as well, because then you would need multiple ad banners and videos, and you have to figure out how much you would like to spend and where and how. And all of this is while still making sure that the game actually works as intended and don't have any bugs. So there are incredibly many questions, and I'm kind of afraid of making huge mistakes or simply forgetting something important. But I guess we just have to dive in head first and accept the fact that I'm probably gonna fuck up multiple things during launch. But I guess the most important is to have a good and relatively bug-free game ready for launch. And I really want to thank all the beta testers that have reported so incredibly many bugs the last months and found problems I would never have found on my own. You guys are truly the only reason the game has become what it is, so thank you so much. But now before launch, I'm actually inviting one last wave of beta testers. So if you want to join in on the final testing or simply get more information about the release, you can join the Discord channel in the description below. And I will continue to update all of you as we're getting closer to the launch. Thank you so much for your support and thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.